Shalom Aleichem. We're continuing learning Mesilat Yesharim with Rabbi Victor Miller's commentary, and we're on page 130, chapter 1.35. The top of the ladder. The Mesilat Yesharim has introduced a topic here that seems out of place. This subject of Kiddusha, of holiness, is found at the end of the Sefer because it is the top of the ladder. It goes in progression from being careful with your behavior, being enthusiastic about your behavior, about your actions, and so on and so forth, until we reach holiness. And here already at the beginning he's speaking about holiness. Why so early? So he continues, there is a ladder that our father Yaakov saw in a vision. A ladder standing on the earth. And the top went all the way to the sky. So what does that ladder that Yaakov saw in a dream represent? From that dream we see that man's career in life is compared to a ladder. As Yaakov was leaving his father's house and going into the world to face the world and to succeed in the world, so Hashem showed him a vision of what life is all about. And the vision was a ladder. Your mission in life is to climb on the ladder, with its bottom being on earth and its top being in heaven. A ladder has rungs, which signify that you cannot put one foot on the earth and your other foot reaching to the top. You can't in one step reach the top. And at the same time, you cannot be in two worlds at the same time. Cannot be on heaven and earth. If you want to be on top, you have to abandon the earth. You have to gradually remove yourself from physicality and slowly strive towards spirituality. You must ascend by gradual steps. So two lessons we learn from a ladder. Number one, it has to be slow movement, gradual, one step at a time. And number two, in order to go to one end, you have to leave the other end. So he continues, first you must conquer the next step and the one after that, and so on. Therefore, you should never aim to the highest degree of perfection immediately, because you're going to be disappointed and give up attempting to grow further. Be ambitious, but only for the next step. For example, if we have a contentious person who likes to fight, a complainer, the first step is to stop complaining, to stop accusing, to stop finding fault. That's not a very big achievement in life. Or what's your achievement? That I didn't blame people. But it's the first step. Stop making trouble for other people and just keep your mouth closed. The next step, once that has been achieved, is to take positive steps. What good did you bring into the world? Like saying encouraging things to people. The purpose of life is to climb the ladder. What you were last year is not enough for this year. However, don't be discouraged if you cannot reach the top immediately. The next step is a victory. Every step is a victory. And be happy if you can achieve that. So the saying, lower your standards and then you will not be disappointed, applies here as well. If you keep your standards very high for your next step, then you'll never get to the next step. If the rungs of the ladder are very far between each other, then you're not going to be able to climb. So lower your standards for the next step. Make small steps, and then you can make many steps one after another and eventually climb very high. The purpose of life is to climb the ladder. And as long as you're climbing, that is an achievement. The ultimate purpose is to reach the top. But that's the long-term goal. When we learn the last chapter of Mesilat Yesharim, the chapter of Kiddusha, of holiness, we understand that it's an ideal. The ideal is to reach holiness. We should know the concept exists, but we are aiming only for the next step that is close to us, which is very far away from Kiddusha. So it's a remarkable thing that we see in the very first chapter that he starts speaking about the necessity of holiness, of Kiddusha. He says one of the purposes of making ourselves better is in order to make the world better, and when a man is holy, then everything in the world that is of service to him becomes holy too. If you are holy, then anything that serves you is also holy, has a holy purpose. And by the way, people who say that animals have rights and that we cannot use animals for our needs, they are only saying it because they don't see value in a human being. Not because they see value in animals, because a human being is at least as valuable as an animal, but we don't see them caring so much about humans. And the answer is because they lowered the value of the human being, and they don't think that if an animal serves the human, it's a benefit for the animal. Because who is human that something should serve it or him? And therefore they find it very hard to understand why would one creature be killed for the sake of the other. But if you understand that there is a great difference between them, and the purpose of an animal is meaningless if the animal does not serve some other greater ideal. And the best that an animal can do with its life and for itself is to serve a human being. If it can serve the human being through its life by carrying burdens, by carrying the person, by providing milk and wool for the person, protecting the person, that's wonderful. And if it needs to serve the person, the human being, through its death by giving the person its meat or organs for transplant, that's also a great achievement for an animal. And the animal rises in its function, and the animal soul grows to connect to the human soul. So if you are connected to holiness, then you yourself become holy. If you serve someone who is holy, you yourself become holy. And that is why by making ourselves holy, we uplift the world, because now the entire world, by serving us, becomes holy as well, becomes kadosh. Now we're on page 131. Why is the highest achievement included at the beginning? Why are we speaking of describing the highest level now? Maybe he should have waited until we have gone through zihirut, being careful, and zirizut, being enthusiastic about mitzvot, and all the other qualities. In the very first chapter, it's out of place to talk about Kedusha. So it seems. Now we go to chapter 1.36. We cannot postpone the climb. Now we come to a truism that applies to many such things in the Torah. The Rambam states that love of Hashem is only for the greatest people. It's an achievement of prophets. If so, what is the use of telling us about it? Why do we have a commandment to love Hashem if Rambam says that it's impossible for us to achieve? That only if you are a prophet you can truly love God. We're not prophets. It seems like a waste of time for us. But the Rambam describes what love of Hashem is in detail. So it seems like he does consider it applicable to us. The Rambam was not teaching prophets what to do. They didn't need the Rambam. They knew more than the Rambam. So we understand that the Rambam is describing the top of the ladder, the true culmination of a man's efforts where the prophets are standing. That form of love of Hashem is not actually for us, but there is a form of love of Hashem that not only is for us, but we are obligated in it. The highest level of love we cannot achieve in this current world without prophecy. But some level of love is for everybody, and that's our obligation. No less than we are obligated to eat kosher, to put on tefillin, and to keep Shabbat, we are obligated to love God. We say every day in the morning and in the evening, you should love God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your ability. But we can't. We have too many distractions. We don't have clarity. So the Torah is asking us for something impossible. But all your ability means whatever you're capable of. Yes, you're not able to unlock your heart completely, to clear your mind completely. But according to your ability, you can and you have to. Certainly you have to love Hashem. And there are multiple levels of Ahavat Hashem. And we should start out now. We cannot postpone until we reach the top of the ladder. If we postpone, then we will certainly never reach it. If we start immediately, then in the course of our travels higher and higher, it will develop and grow into what the Rambam calls true Ahavat Hashem. And that is why Hashem, in His wisdom, gave us a 13-year period for boys and 12-year period for girls for training, so that we practice the mitzvot, we practice learning the Torah, we practice how to be good and how to benefit others, so that when a boy turns 13 and the girl turns 12, they can actually start serving Hashem and helping others on a high level. They're not expected to be good people from birth, but by the age of 12 and 13, they have enough time to prepare themselves. And that's the job of parents, to train them slowly, step by step, guiding them gently, prodding them, pushing them up, that they should go higher and higher, and then by the time they're bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, they can be independently good and serve Hashem properly. So you cannot say, oh, he's too young, let me wait until he becomes 12 or 13, then I'll tell him what to do. No, you have to start young and slowly, gently, step by step, encourage them to go higher and higher. Now, how do you start now? Here's one little tip. Do you like watermelon? As you sink your teeth into a piece of cold, red, sweet, juicy watermelon, think, I love you, Hashem, for that. Develop your love, Hashem, at a time when it's easy to love Hashem, when you are receiving pleasure, any kind of pleasure, whether you are eating delicious food, say, Hashem, thank you, I love you. Whether you are looking at beautiful nature, say, thank you, Hashem, I love you, it's so beautiful. Whether husband and wife are involved in marital relations, at that time it's also a good idea to think about Hashem and express your love to Hashem. At the beginning it may be insincere, because in reality most people don't think about Hashem when they're making a bracha. They just say the words. But say that you love Hashem anyhow. That's how you start out. Once you say it, you will start thinking about it. But if you don't say, I love Hashem, you will never get there. But if you say it and you start on your path, there is a good chance of eventually arriving. So when you make a blessing before eating the watermelon, think about thanking Hashem for making the fruit of the earth. And then when you sink your teeth into it, try a little bit to love Hashem for the watermelon. In fact, that's what the watermelon is there for. Its purpose is to make you love Hashem. Have you ever thought of that? That is the purpose of all the good things in this world. Hashem gives us food so that we should thank Him for it and come to love Him for it. That is the purpose, and that is the beginning of the travel toward Kedusha. In the 26th chapter of Mesilat Yesharim, it begins by explaining that Kedusha is a gift given to us by Hashem. As a result of our attempt to gain Kedusha, Hashem gives it to us as a gift. Then he says, what man can do in Kedusha is the exertion to pursue the true knowledge and to constantly keep your mind in the holiness of the act. The true knowledge is to be aware at all times that Hashem is the one who is giving you everything. That must be maintained constantly. Thinking about Hashem and realizing that all your interactions with the world are really your interactions with Hashem. When you see a piece of bread on your table, you should actually learn to feel that it has been delivered by the hand of Hashem, as in the verse, you open up your hand and you satisfy the will of every living thing. You should know it's not easy, but that's what we have to work on to acquire the true knowledge of Hashem. And that is that Hashem is giving the food to us. Furthermore, we can understand the benefit of the food, that the food contains nourishing proteins and life-giving vitamins. We have to study all of that and know how valuable Hashem's gifts are. They're delicious and nutritious. That is also part of true knowledge. Then to constantly keep your mind in the holiness of the act means while we are eating, we are aware that we're eating for that purpose of attaining the true knowledge. Every time we eat, we have opportunity to get pleasure from Hashem, to appreciate the greatness of Hashem, and we will have nutrition to stay healthy, to live a long life, and energy to continue learning more about Hashem and serving Hashem. This is climbing the ladder toward perfection by utilizing the happiness of this world. Not only through eating, if you utilize the happiness of breathing air or of looking at the blue sky, then little by little you learn the true knowledge that these are gifts that are being bestowed on you by the hand of Hashem. He is intentionally giving you this enjoyment. If you spend time gaining this attitude, thinking more and more about it, your mind is constantly on it while breathing, drinking, or eating. You're utilizing all the good things in life that you're enjoying in order to gain this Kedusha, holiness. That is the beginning of the career toward the great goal of Kedusha. Ramchal, the author of Mesilat Yesharim, was one of the great Kabbalists, but in general he tried to keep that quiet. This idea that the world is improved through a righteous person, sometimes called Tikkun Olam, is quite Kabbalistic. However, the author will provide evidence for this concept from the revealed Torah and from the Gemara, not from Kabbalah, but it is a concept from Kabbalah. With this, we complete this chapter. We're on page 133. Thank you for joining us. See you tomorrow.